And I want to begin by commending the Home Secretary and her team for the reforms in the bill which are genuinely positive, scrapping the unworkable, costly plan to expel people seeking asylum to Rwanda, a repressive regime which is making war on its neighbours. This has rescued us in this House from the Alice in Wonderland where Rwanda is safe if we say it is. They've also scrapped and towed away the miserable and dangerous prison ship, the Bibby Stockholm barge, and committed to deciding asylum claims that had previously been placed in indefinite limbo. All positive developments. However, it's difficult to be positive about the remainder of the bill, and I'll start with highlighting some of my concerns. The bill clearly aims to prioritise border security, but the malign Greek chorus, which chants "stop the boats" to every problem in our society, is wrong. With these measures, as with others, the boats will not be stopped unless we look at the issue holistically. Have we stopped organised crime in drugs, in people trafficking, fraud, firearms and so on? Of course not, because some of these are high-tech operations. Yet all these overseas-based criminals need is dinghies. It can't be a credible plan to smash the gangs unless we first deal with the demand for what they supply. Many of us have long argued that the way to undercut and ultimately eliminate the gangs would be to re-establish safe and legal routes for asylum seekers, to establish processing centres in northern France, to turn away failed applications, and to allow those entitled to be here safe travel. All this could be done before anybody attempts to set... I will give way to my honourable friend.
Diane Abbott.
I'm very grateful to my honourable friend. Doesn't she agree with me that more people should listen to those of us that say, if you don't want people drowning in the Channel, the answer is to enable the processing of these asylum claims to be done in northern France, which is something the French have offered to us?
Thank my honourable friend for her intervention, and obviously she's always right. It is not impossible. In fact, it has been done before. Instead, this bill could actually end up criminalising those same people because of their means of travelling here, which would ultimately be wrong. And it's widely understood that many of these people, precisely because they are the victims of persecution, cannot apply for visas in the normal fashion, and many more cannot afford the cost of long-haul flights either. Genuine and valid asylum seekers could be criminalised. And we should remember these are people fleeing war and devastation, and some of those people are being trafficked here. Many are being brought here as slaves, either for domestic service or menial unpaid work, or are being trafficked into sex slavery. This bill could abolish their rights and their protections under the Modern Slavery Act. Then there is the question of immigration detention, which will increase as a result of the bill. The immigration detention estate is already costly and cruel. It's a ridiculous irony that we're releasing criminals because our jails are full, but increasing the use of immigration when it is later found that 75% of them are eventually entitled to be here. The main concern has been foreign national offenders, and actually 4,674 foreign national offenders returns were made this year, at the end of last year, in September 2024, an increase of over a quarter compared to the previous year, which means this government is doing what it wants to in terms of foreign national offenders. But why is it that we are still holding on to increasing the immigration detention estate when we know that in 2019 the Conservative government had awarded asylum accommodation contracts worth billions to just 3 companies? And almost every single one of these removal centres operated by these companies has reported overcrowding, hostile and unsanitary conditions, and at the worst, death and suicide. Costly and cruel. We need a limit on immigration detention. This would be both humane and efficient. The average daily cost at the moment to hold an individual in immigration detention was £122 a day. What a huge cost when there are options for detention in the community, and actually most people are detained when they go to their bi-weekly reporting sessions at the Home Office. And we're detaining far too many people unlawfully. In 2023 to 2024, the Home Office actually issued 832 compensation payments for unlawful detention, totalling £12 million. And you've heard it before today, we detain children. We detain children, and in 2023, the Home Office detained 47 children for immigration detention purposes. We disagree on many things across this House, but the rights of children is not usually one of them. And people say there are really complex reasons as to why this happened. And to that I say, make it simple and make it stop. We shouldn't be detaining children for the purposes of immigration. And lastly, on my concerns, the whole system of application, the application of international law as it applies to refugees, might be undermined here. Section 29 of the Illegal Migration Act 2023 will be untouched, and that was a truly rotten measure introduced by the party opposite, who had a problematic relationship with international law. And we on this side of the House must be better than them. And we're seeing at the moment a trafficked woman, for example, arriving here, having been abducted halfway across the world, would have no rights as a refugee precisely because her traffickers brought her here on a small boat, and that can't be right. And I know this bill is focused on small boat crossings, but it is an immigration bill, and that means it doesn't all have to be negative. There are things we could do that we largely agree on here, like scrapping child citizenship fees and further protections for EU nationals and the Windrush generation. Scrapping child citizenship fees is something that we on this side of the House supported in opposition, and the Shadow Home Secretary was the former immigration minister, actually implemented a fee waiver for. But these fee waivers are not being accepted. Last year, 36% of them were accepted, only 40% were rejected, and 22% are waiting for decision, and that's just not good enough. This is children that have lived here their whole lives, children that have been born here, including the children of EU nationals. We know as well that EU nationals continue to struggle with their rights, and that's something that we could resolve here, as do the Windrush generation, who we can all agree, again, have the right to be here, but are still having major issues. And we shouldn't wait for the appointment of the Windrush Commissioner to be able to tell us that they are still being subject to the hostile environment. We could do so much more where we agree, but unfortunately there are too many instances where victims are blamed, could be blamed for the crime, and I worry that this bill could codify that injustice into law. Thank you.